You walk into your garage on a Saturday morning, coffee in one hand, and you stare at the car that is quietly bleeding your wallet dry. Another $400 quote sits on the kitchen counter for something that should not even be a repair. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember your grandfather fixing the same problem with a rag, a jar from under the sink, and 10 minutes of his time. That is the frustration, isn't it? You pay, and the car still never feels as tight, as quiet, as strong as it used to. Every season brings a new noise, a new light on the dash, a new excuse for the service writer to add another line to the invoice. Here is the truth most people will not say out loud. The dealerships, the chain shops, and even the parts stores have spent 40 years convincing you that the old ways were primitive, that you need a proprietary cleaner, a specialty additive, a $1,000 diagnostic, just to do what a man in 1965 did with a bottle of vinegar and a screwdriver. They were not primitive. They were chemists, machinists, and problem solvers who kept cars running 300,000 miles on leaded gas and bias ply tires. And the reason nothing ever changes for you is that you keep trusting the modern script instead of the old playbook that actually worked. In this video, I am going to walk you through 15 household hacks from the 1960s that veteran mechanics today quietly admit were genius, and I am going to split them into two halves so you understand exactly when to use each one. The first half covers the cleaning and chemistry tricks that save your engine internally. The second half covers the mechanical and preservation tricks that save the metal, the rubber, and the wiring outside the engine. And at the end, I will give you the one single habit that locks in every gain so you never have to repeat the work. Part 1. The cleaning and chemistry hacks that protect what is inside your engine. This matters first because 90% of the slow death of a modern engine happens internally in places you cannot see, where carbon, varnish, and sludge build up 1/1000th of an inch at a time until your compression drops and your fuel economy tanks. Most people, when they feel their car getting sluggish, head straight to the parts store and grab a $20 bottle of fuel system cleaner with a brand name on the front and a promise on the back. It feels logical. It feels like progress. But here is what is actually happening under your hood. Most of those modern cleaners are about 80 to 90% the same solvent base your grandfather bought for $2 a quart, sold to you at a 10 times markup with a marketing budget baked into the price. Meanwhile, the carbon deposits on your intake valves, especially on direct injection engines built after about 2008, can grow up to 2 millimeters thick and choke airflow by 15 to 20%. The mechanical consequence is a rough idle, a misfire under load, and a fuel economy drop of 3 to 5 miles per gallon that you have been blaming on the weather. Here is the reframe. You are not buying a cleaner, you are buying a label. So here is what the old timers actually used. Simplest first. Hack number 1, a cup of plain isopropyl alcohol poured into a near empty tank of gas once every 3,000 miles. It binds to the water that condenses in your tank from temperature swings, carries it through the injectors, and burns it off harmlessly. Hack number 2, a half cup of acetone added to a full tank. Acetone lowers the surface tension of gasoline, which means the droplets atomize finer in the combustion chamber and burn more completely, often returning 1 to 2 miles per gallon and cleaning the top of the piston as it goes. Hack number 3, the famous Marvel mystery oil trick, 4 ounces in the crankcase and 4 ounces in the fuel tank every oil change, a product literally formulated in 1923 that loosens varnish on lifters and rings without the harshness of modern engine flushes that can dislodge sludge in chunks and clog your oil pickup. Hack number 4, a tablespoon of automatic transmission fluid in the crankcase about 500 miles before an oil change. The detergent package in ATF is more aggressive than motor oil, and it softens deposits so they drain out with the old oil instead of staying behind. Hack number 5, distilled white vinegar in a spray bottle for cleaning battery terminal corrosion. The acetic acid neutralizes the alkaline sulfate crust in about 60 seconds, where a wire brush alone just polishes around it. And the universal prevention tip from this first half is simple. Every single time you change your oil, also pop the oil cap and wipe the underside with a clean rag. If that rag comes back tan and slick, you are healthy. If it comes back black, gummy, or milky, you have a problem brewing that no additive will fully fix, and you need to get ahead of it. Part 2. Now we move to a completely different category of problems, because the inside of your engine is only half the war. The other half is everything the weather, the road salt, the heat cycles, and the time itself are doing to the metal, the rubber, the plastic, and the wiring of your car. This is a technically separate fight, and the universal mistake almost every modern driver makes is ignoring it until something visible breaks. By then, the cascade has already started. A pinhole in a rubber vacuum line creates a lean condition that burns a valve over 6 months. A corroded ground strap raises resistance, your alternator overworks, and 18 months later you are buying a $400 alternator that did not actually fail, it was murdered. A seized caliper slide pin chews through a set of pads in 3,000 miles and warps a rotor you just paid to have machined. The old-timers knew the metal and rubber needed feeding, and they fed it with what was in the pantry. So here are the next 10 hacks, and I want you to think of them as Method 1, Method 2, Method 3, and onward, ordered from cheapest and easiest to slightly more involved. Method 1, petroleum jelly on your battery terminals after you clean them with vinegar. A thin film seals the lead from oxygen and humidity, and it stops the white fuzzy corrosion from coming back for a year or more, where the red spray cans from the parts store wear off in about 3 months. Method 2, a wipe of clean motor oil on every rubber hose, vacuum line, and weather strip you can reach twice a year. Rubber dies when the plasticizers evaporate out of it, and a light oil film slows that evaporation dramatically, which is why a 60-year-old hose in a well-kept garage queen is still soft while the 5-year-old hose on your daily driver is already cracking. Method 3. A bar of plain laundry soap, the old-fashioned kind, rubbed on the inside of a windshield to stop fogging in winter, and rubbed on bolt threads as a mild anti-seize for non-critical fasteners. Method 4. A thin coat of beeswax or even plain paste furniture wax on your chrome, your door jambs, and the painted areas where road salt collects. Wax is hydrophobic at the molecular level. Salt water beads up and rolls off instead of sitting on the metal and starting electrochemical corrosion that eats through a quarter panel in 5 winters. Method 5. A teaspoon of dish soap in your washer fluid reservoir in the summer, which cuts bug guts and road film far better than the blue stuff alone. Method 6. A piece of pantyhose or an old nylon stocking stretched over the air intake snorkel as a pre-filter in dusty conditions, an old farm trick that doubles the life of your actual air filter and was used on tractors for 60 years. Method 7. A handful of plain silica cat litter in a sock, tossed under the seats and in the trunk, which absorbs humidity and prevents the musty smell and the slow corrosion of seat springs and floor pan seams. Method 8. White lithium grease, the kind that came in a tube in every workshop in 1965, applied once a year to your door hinges, hood latch, trunk hinges, and parking brake cable. It stays put when WD-40 has long since evaporated, and it keeps cables from seizing in cold weather, which is the single most common cause of a parking brake that locks up in January. Method 9. A sheet of aluminum foil under your wiper blades when you park in a frost or ice storm, which prevents them from freezing to the glass and tearing the rubber edge when you peel them off in the morning. A torn wiper edge is what causes that streak across your windshield at 60 miles per hour in the rain, and most people replace the whole blade when the rubber insert alone is a $3 fix. Method 10, and this is the one that surprises people the most, a small piece of an old cotton t-shirt stuffed loosely in your exhaust tip when the car sits for more than 2 weeks. It blocks mice, wasps, and moisture from setting up shop in your exhaust system, and a mouse nest in a catalytic converter is a $1,000 problem that starts with a 5-cent piece of fabric you forgot to use. Just remember to pull it out before you start the engine. The catastrophic consequence of skipping all of this is not dramatic in one day. It is the slow rot. It is the wiring harness that develops a high resistance ground at 140,000 miles and throws 6 unrelated codes that no scanner can untangle. It is the rear subframe that rusts through because the drain holes were never waxed. It is the seized brake line that bursts the first cold morning of the 3rd winter and leaves you with no pedal at a red light. The old hacks were not quaint. They were the difference between a car that died at 80,000 miles and a car that ran to 300,000 on the same engine. Part 3. Prevention. Here is the one single universal action that ties everything in this video together and keeps both halves working without you having to remember any of it on a schedule. Twice a year, on the first warm Saturday of spring and the last warm Saturday of fall, you do a 45-minute walk around with 3 things in your hand: a clean rag, a spray bottle of 50-50 distilled water and white vinegar, and a small tub of plain petroleum jelly or white lithium grease. You wipe every terminal, every hinge, every visible rubber hose, every ground strap you can find bolted to the body or the engine block, and you touch every one of them with either the vinegar to clean or the grease to protect. The reason this works mechanically is that almost every long-term failure on a car begins with either oxidation on a metal connection or drying on a rubber surface, and both processes are stopped cold by displacing oxygen and moisture with a thin barrier. Use the petroleum jelly on electrical and the white lithium grease on mechanical pivots, and that is it. This single 90 minutes per year total saves the average driver between $400 and $1,200 annually in avoided repairs. And on a high mileage engine, it is genuinely the difference between selling the car at $150,000 and driving it past $300,000. Now, here is what is going to happen once you start applying these hacks. You are going to clean up your engine internals. You are going to seal up your terminals and hoses. And within about 1,000 miles, you are going to notice something you did not expect. Your engine is going to start running leaner and cleaner than it has in years. And that is going to expose a weakness you did not know you had. Your oxygen sensors, your mass airflow sensor, or your spark plugs, which were compensating for all that gunk, are suddenly going to be the limiting factor. You will start to see a check engine light, or a small hesitation under hard acceleration, or a slightly rougher cold start, because the computer is recalibrating to a healthier engine and finding the next weakest link. If that happens to you, or if it is already happening, drop a comment below and tell me which symptom showed up first, because the next video is going to walk you through exactly how to diagnose and fix that next weak link for under $20 without ever setting foot in a shop. Subscribe so you do not miss it, because once you start down this road, the savings compound, and I want to make sure you are there for the part where the car finally feels like it did the day you brought it home,